Good afternoon and welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of International Falls for Monday, August the 7th, 2017. We ask all to please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ask the administrator to note the roll call with Councillor Jacksaw, who is on vacation. We'll move to the agenda, and we have a number of additions. Under minutes, we have the minutes of the July 12th Committee of the Whole and the August 2nd Special City Council meeting. Under new business, items number 4, authorizing the Fire Rescue EMS Department to secure contract, to provide the chemical response services for a 5-year contract. Under item 5 under new business is to approve accepting the ownership of the chemical assessment team support vehicle. So those would be the additions to the agenda. Council's pleasure with the agenda and additions.
Move on it.
Motion by Councillor Briggs to approve the agenda with the additions. Second by Councillor Pearson. Discussion on the motion or the agenda. Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. The agenda is approved with those additions. Thank you. We'll go then to the minutes of the Wednesday, July 12th Committee of the Whole meeting. Your pleasure with those minutes?
Move.
Motion by Councillor Briggs to approve the minutes of July 12th. Second by Councillor Pearson. Discussion? Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Minutes for July 12th are approved. Minutes of the regular City Council meeting on July 17th.
Move.
Motion by Councillor Briggs.
Second.
Second by Councillor Droba. Discussion on the motion of the minutes. Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried and the regular minutes are approved. Thank you. And then we'll go to item 3 under minutes, and that's the special City Council meeting minutes of August the 2nd.
I'll move on those questions.
Motion by Councillor Droba. Second by Councillor Pearson to approve the minutes. Discussion on the motion or the minutes. Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Minutes for the special City Council meeting are approved. Thank you. Move to the payment of claims and approval of the accounts payable. We have transfer to fund number 101, the general fund from the lodging tax fund, $724.65. Accounts payable regular claims for the City of International Falls, $568,841.29. Airport Commission claims of $88,407.74. Airport Commission Terminal Project claims of $888,997.93. And Airport Commission Terminal Project Phase 2 claims of $3,000. With pleasure with the resolution.
Move on the resolution.
Motion by Councillor Briggs to adopt the resolution. Second by Councillor Pearson to adopt the resolution for the transfers and the payment of accounts payable. Questions with regard to the motion or any of the items under the resolution? Hearing none. Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Resolution is adopted. Payment of claims and the transfer are approved. Thank you. Go to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to approach the council at this time that is not on the agenda? There'd be another opportunity at the end of the meeting for that. Thank you. We'll move to the new business. Item number 1 is to approve the International Falls Figure Skating Club's request to conduct a Monster Dash 5K run on October 28, 2017. Kim Wimmer, would you care to come forward and... You can sit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here on behalf of the International Falls Figure Skating Club, this is a fundraiser. Last year we did it, and it was our first fundraiser, or first time that we've done that particular fundraiser. It went over quite well, and we've heard some positive feedback as far as getting more numbers. We like to do fundraising to offset some of the costs for our skaters in the club, and we're hopeful that the council will approve this request so we can do it again this year.
And do you have the same... what do I want to call, route, I guess, for the...
It would be the same route that the Bronco 5K is held on the 4th of July each year, so it's a pretty well-known route for people who do 5Ks, and we marked it. We let law enforcement know in the past. They didn't do, like some of the bigger ones you see, the Bass Dash and things, they're actually at patrol stations. It wasn't quite that big, so I don't think we had actual law enforcement vehicles sitting there or anything, but they certainly were aware that's what we were doing, and we had different stations throughout, so we seek to do the same thing.
Very good. Your council's pleasure then, or questions for Ms. Wimmer with regard to the Monster Dash?
I would move on the request.
Motion by Councilor Briggs to approve the request for conducting the Monster Dash 5K on October 28th. Second by Councilor Pearson. Discussion on the motion or the dash?
What time is it?
Well, I think we held it at 9 o'clock in the morning last year. We don't have flyers made up or anything. We thought we would make sure that we got approval first and then do it. But it was a morning event.
This does block some of the streets too, doesn't it? When to set everything up and take everything down if we're going to be blocking off streets.
And I think we did that all on our own last year. We certainly notified people that we were doing it. I know, if I remember right, I think we talked to Tom Lynch about it with the city. But we'd be happy to jump through whatever steps we need to jump through.
Right, and at no point was I thinking I wasn't going to vote for it because of anything like that. It's just, do we block off traffic? Do you guys stop traffic from going through the roads, or do you guys just use the side of the road like on some of the other runs that we do?
I don't think traffic was blocked. I think we had stations set up to make sure that people turned at the appropriate turns, and there were water stands and things there, but it didn't have nearly as big a turnout as some of the ones where I have seen where they do block off traffic.
On July 4th, at several of the locations, the Customs and Border Protection and Border Patrol assisted the Falls Police in helping to watch those intersections so that there wasn't any, and it worked out well. And I don't know what the July 4th race generated, but I would guess somewhere maybe 150 to 200.
I think that's right.
Similar
yes.
to your...
Ours was not nearly that many. I mean, we would hope we would, but I think last year we had maybe 30 to 40 runners. So.
Further questions or discussion? Question on the...
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion is carried, and the Monster Dash is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Item number 2 under new business is the resolution approving the application for the exempt permit for the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association Trails End Chapter to conduct a raffle on Thursday, October 26th, with drawing to be held at the Elks Lodge, 1599.
Move.
Motion by Councilor Briggs to approve. Second by Councilor Pearson. Question on the motion or the permit? Question?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Resolution is adopted. Permit is approved. Thank you. Item number 3 under new business is to consider the acquisition or lease of mobile and portable radios from Motorola Solutions Incorporated for use by the Fire Rescue EMS and/or the Public Works Department. City Administrator, can you help us?
Mayor, Council, I would have to say that this is a work in progress, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable that we're not further along with the information we have, but as you'll note, we included a quote that was provided for the fire department to have portable radios and mobile units and base unit in the fire department and for ambulance use. And that estimated cost or quote was for $103,047.21. Now, for a bit of history, we've been working with representatives from Motorola and DSC out of Duluth, which does a lot of our radio work in the city, going back to December of last year. And there's been some delays and waiting to find out if we had the ability to actually lease mobile radios, or if it would be subject to, if it would be considered debt. Then our charter requires that we would have to have a referendum approved by the public before we could actually lease the radios. I have had conversations with the legal counsel the city's used in the past and the EDA has used in the past for debt issuance, and she assured me that if the lease includes a non-appropriation clause, which means it's subject to the monies to pay the lease are subject to appropriation by the council each year when you consider your annual budgets, then it's not considered debt and you can move forward with a lease if that's something the city wants to do. Second option would be is to just purchase it outright, and for the fire department, they do have money set aside in their capital outlay account, but we've been reserving that money for purchase or acquisition of other fire trucks going forward in the future, although it's not restricted to my knowledge. But that's a significant expenditure. Now, to try and create some compatibility and intercommunication between our public works staff and our emergency services staff, we would like to outfit the public works department with these same types of units also. Now, our Public Works Director, or actually our Street Water Commissioner, has not had an opportunity to talk directly with the suppliers from Motorola regarding some of the questions that he has. And part of the questions for the Public Works Department would be is how many mobile units do we want to have versus portable units? And we have, I think the number that they were looking at is roughly 25 units for all of our vehicles and staff. And so he has a series of questions he still needs to get answers to. He's had a call into Motorola for 2 weeks, and we still have not had an opportunity to speak to him directly. So at this point in time, I'm not prepared to make a recommendation as to how we would proceed moving forward. I would say that we have 2 base units that we've been using in the fire department to help page our paid-on-call firefighters. And they're very antiquated and they're subject to failure. And so we have 2 of them, so if one of them goes down, we use the other one until we get the one that went down repaired. We have had an occasion where both of them went down. And that's very problematic because we can't page our volunteer firefighters. So that's really pressed the issue forward, and we knew that they were old when we talked to them back in December, so we want to move forward. We want to move forward relatively quickly. So given that background and that history, I'm just looking to the City Council for some direction. If you would totally object to us leasing these over a period of 8 to 10 years, then I need to know that now, and then we'll try and proceed and get quotes for the Public Works Department in addition to the Fire Department and just acquire them outright if we can afford it, and we'll identify the sources of funds to do that. If you're open to allowing us to lease these with a non-appropriation clause in the lease, then I think we would like to explore that to free up some of our existing capital and reserve funds for other projects that we have going forward. The question is what's the additional cost for a lease, or that's one question, and we looked at a sample lease agreement that was provided to us this winter back in January The city of Virginia had entered into a similar lease, and the interest rate on that was about 2.27%, I believe, for a 10-year term. That's also some of the information we're trying to get right now from DSC. The fire chief has tried to communicate with him, and he asked him to contact me directly on Friday. I still haven't heard from him. And so we're having a communication problem with that particular supplier, and actually I believe they're the only one in the state, but we're exploring that as well. So I think it's important to have that communication between our Public Works Department and our Emergency Services staff when we have trees down, power lines down, we have storm conditions. That's something that we haven't necessarily had in the past. Our Public Works Department uses VHF radios. The fire department's on 800 megahertz with the police department. So we want to try and have that ability to communicate between our public works staffs, which have to sometimes respond in emergency situations. And so I see value in that. I just don't have a total cost for you at this point in time. And I'm looking for a nod as to whether or not there'd be any objection to leasing these, if that's something we choose to do. And when we can get firm numbers and confirm how to move forward, I guess I'm wondering if the council would be comfortable in having a special meeting to make a decision sometime between now and the 14th, if possible.
I will not be available for any special meetings between now and then, but my thought is, I would rather, my belief is I would rather lease the and to expend $103,000, if that's what the number is, if we're putting that towards capital improvements on a new vehicle or something like that. I'd hate to deplete all of our funds from that to buy these radios up front, even if it is at a 2% interest. I would not be available for a special meeting.
I'd like to know more and have a special meeting.
I don't have a problem with special meeting, and I'd like to explore leasing too.
And do I understand, the city administrator, that this is on the bid list of the state of Minnesota?
That's correct.
So that we would not, if it's over 100,000, we don't have to go out and have a bid process.
That's correct, because this is a price that's quoted to the Minnesota State on their competitive bidding list. They do all that for us, so we don't have to do that, so we wouldn't have to get competitive quotes elsewhere. One other option would be is to approve this quote for the fire department and just get a separate quote for the public works department. But I think that there might be some, I guess the prices should not change significantly, because it would be based on of bidding and pricing that's already available through the state. But I think the lease terms could be more attractive. In my conversations with the police chief, it kind of depends on how many units we buy as to what the interest rate will be, and the Public Works Department needs to figure out how many mobile units they want versus portable, and then what models or chassis of radio they would actually purchase, and so the price is going to be determined on that, and we just don't have that information now. I actually expected it at the last council meeting, quite frankly, but...
I'd like to wait till we have a meeting about it.
Okay, wait. I'd really like to see what the lease number is.
And do we think that we'll have it within 2 weeks, or it may be longer? So, Councilor Doble, you may be back by then, because you're going to be gone for...
I'll be back on the 23rd.
23rd of August?
Yes.
I'm happy to drive down to Duluth, for that matter, to try and get something firmed up and meet with them face to face if that's what it takes. So, more assertive with them myself than what we've been able to get. I think they're good radio units. One of the things that we've looked at, we probably only have to look at an 8-year lease, because that's when the new chassis are scheduled to come out from Motorola. That's what their rep had indicated. So with the lease, there's some opportunities to just turn back the radios we have and continue a lease arrangement and get all brand-new radios at that time. And generally, 10 years is kind of the max life you can expect from those. It is dependent on use and how bad they get beat up. I would guess the Public Works Department might be harder on them than the Fire Department would, just based on the frequency of calls. But that's more information we want to get. Wish I could have a little bit more defined information for you, but I did want to get it in front of the council and give you some background on it. And I understand that you're open to the lease thing, and we'll just work more closely with them, and then I'll work with the mayor about scheduling a special meeting that would be convenient for everybody when we get the information.
I think no action is really necessary at this time because the agenda item was for acquisition or lease, and so you're going to secure more information. So at this time, we'll just hold that item in abeyance for further information then. Thank you. We'll go to item 4 under new business, and that's to authorize the Fire Rescue EMS Department to submit a proposal to the Minnesota Homeland Security and Emergency Management Division to provide hazardous materials emergency response team and/or chemical response team services in Response Area 1 for a 5-year contract from October 2017 through September 30th, 2022, and furthermore authorizing the mayor and the city administrator to execute the contract upon approval. The administrator, I guess my understanding of this is that we would be continuing for another 5 years the fire department and those members who are trained to be part of the chemical response team for this area.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. We were actually approached almost 2 years ago now from the state to provide these services on their behalf because the previous agency that provided those services decided not to provide those services for a chemical assessment team. So we were engaged and entered into a contract about 1.5 years ago for us to provide these services in the service area number 1, which goes all the way from Koochiching County westward to Kitson County. And so we would be the responding chemical assessment team for that area. Now, this is a request for proposal that the state is soliciting through their Homeland Security and Emergency Management Office, so other entities could apply to provide the same services. So it's actually a competitive bid process for the 5-year term, and so we have to complete this. And as you can see, it's a fairly substantial document, and it has to be submitted into the state by August 14th. We actually don't anticipate that other people will be interested in doing this, and particularly ones that would have the level of experience that you have to have at least 10 years of experience responding to hazmat incidents. And our fire department has that, so it's not likely that somebody else would have the same capabilities as we would, but it is a competitive bid process, and so that's why we have this fairly significant volume of information to complete and get back to them. Assuming we'll be awarded it, as you indicated, it would be a 5-year contract running through September of 2022, end of the state's fiscal year. Right, the federal fiscal year ends October 1st and ends on September 30th. The amount of revenue that the city is able to generate from providing these services is $60,000 a year, and so that offsets our training expenses, and the state provided a significant amount of equipment for us to be able to provide these services within the because we don't have time to complete the proposal and get it to the council before your next meeting, we're just asking for your authorization to move forward. And if we are awarded it, there is a sample contract, or the terms of the agreement are in there, and the mayor and I would be authorized to sign that when that comes in.
Council's pleasure then with making the proposal to the Minnesota Homeland Security to continue providing chemical response team services. So moved. Motion by Councilor Droba, to approve.
Second?
Second by Councilor Briggs. Question on the motion or the proposal? Hearing none, question.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes, motion is carried. Authorization is given to submit a proposal. Thank you. Item number 5 is to approve accepting ownership of the Chemical Assessment Team Support Vehicle, authorize the payment of all title, transfer fees, and signing documents, declare the vehicle as surplus equipment, approve the advertising, the sale of the vehicle, and delegate staff to approve the sale to the highest bidder.
That's quite the motion. I will make it.
Motion by Councilor Droba. Second by Councilor Briggs. Discussion on the motion or the accepting ownership of that vehicle. And I think the explanation in the August 4 letter, clear enough, so having been damaged and
Yeah, I was going to say for the people in the what that is. The vehicle was hit a deer, and it sell it and get a new one than it is to fix the old.
the state of Minnesota doesn't feel it's worthwhile to repair the vehicle, and so it's going to be put up for sale as is. Further discussion.
Mayor, I'd just point out that it is a chemical assessment team vehicle that the state provided to us. I believe it's a 1996 Suburban. It doesn't have a lot of miles, but because of the extent of the damage and the age of the vehicle, it couldn't be fixed reasonably. And so, it took the state over 6 months to figure out what they want to do with this, and this explanation, which we just got last week, explains how we're going to do it. They'll convey title to us, and then we can dispose of it as surplus.
Very good. Further questions or discussion? Call the question. I'll vote yes, motion is carried, and approval for accepting ownership is approved. Go to item 6 under new business, and that's to consider the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee recommendation of approving Widsa Smith and Nolting proposal for engineering services in the amount of $11,500 for storm sewer GIS information build-out, payable from the Permanent Improvement Fund. So this would be a continuation of the street information that the council has secured, and also now we have the water and sewer information that's being put together by Widsa Smith and Nolting for the GIS system. This would complete the infrastructure in the streets except for power lines and gas lines.
That's correct.
All of the city infrastructure would be known on a GIS system once this is complete.
Street lights would be the other one where we have not totally complete information on. Combination of street light system the city owns and maintains and operates, and there's some that the Minnesota Power has, and so also looking at that as part of this process, but it's not included in the fee for the work that we have to do.
Okay, council's pleasure with the proposal for engineering services.
Member of the Public Works, I will move that.
Motion by Councilor Droba to approve the engineering services amount of $11,500 for the storm sewer GIS work.
Second that.
Second by Councilor Pearson. Thank you. Discussion on the motion or the engineering services. Question? And I'll vote yes, motion is carried, and engineering services are approved. Thank you. Any other new business to come before the council? We'll move to the reports of boards, committees, and department heads. City Administrator.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Welcome to the City Attorney. Pleased to have you back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're feeling well?
Yes, as most of you may know, I've been off for a couple weeks for some surgery, and I'm happy to report that it was successfully completed at the Mayo Clinic, and I'm recuperating slowly, but should be back to work almost full-time in about a week or so. But things went great, so thanks.
Any report for the council?
I don't have any, I haven't been working, so I don't have any report. I did meet with Administrator Anderson today, and he kind of brought me up to date on a few issues that have occurred in my absence, but I have nothing further to report.
Thank you. Would maybe just make one point, and that's during the first budget meeting, we heard from Judge Leduc with regard to the
Drug court.
drug court, and he was very complimentary of your participation, and believe that would continue. And we're looking at the possibility of doing another contribution, but that's up to the council.
Well, it's a great program, been very successful, and funding has become an issue, although in the state budget this year, kind of at the last minute, there was some monies included that some of that will hopefully find its way up here, but some of the traditional ways of funding it have evaporated. They were temporary, and so that's going to be an issue ongoing. I know the county board is making a contribution, and they hold fundraising projects, and one of the things that I've been doing to assist with the funding is that on some of our plea bargains with defendants in criminal cases that involve any alcohol issues or alcohol abuse issues or drug issues, rather than doing a fine where most of the money ends up going to the state of Minnesota and we see very little of it, I've been using a technique called costs of prosecution that are diverted to the official name is the Substance Abuse Court for Coochin County. And so I'm not sure of the exact figure over the last year or so that assisted, but I'm guessing probably in excess of $15,000 that we can. So we're trying to be creative in ways to find monies for that without necessarily using local tax dollars. But it's a struggle, but it's a great program.
Appreciate your participation. Thank you. Go to the did you have anything? Thank you. To the police monthly report, which is in the packet, which shows general calls for service of 352. They had 110 traffic stops, 29 medical assists, 19 custodial arrests, and ICRs of 103. Initial complaint report, is that? A total of 613 for the month of July. In addition, the department participated in the 4th of July, assisting with the 5K run, parades, and fireworks. They executed one drug-related search warrant. Very good work by the police department.
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to say, and Chief Maston's not here, but he's really doing a great job as a chief, and I think everybody's aware how, especially, we've got a department that's probably understaffed and overworked, but he does a great job at coordinating things and coming up with priorities to use the men in the best way possible, and the entire department is good, but I've noticed kind of a change in attitude since he became the chief. So I think he's really got the support of his officers.
Wonderful. Well, and certainly National Night Out that was held the other evening was, I would say, an outstanding success. It was somewhere probably around 700 people that were out there. Just a lot of good compliments. All of the law enforcement agencies from this area were there, as well as the number of the library and the fire department, and you got to help me, the Community Wellness Action Council. All of those folks, I think it was just really a wonderful evening. So very, very pleased with the leadership by the Falls Police Department in that area.
Well, and you can't help but notice that it's really been an issue nationwide, particularly in larger cities, so we don't have some of those same issues. But lack of trust and fear to call law enforcement and seek their assistance is a real issue in a lot of communities. And we don't have that situation, and events like just occurred are one of the reasons why we don't. And I think most of our citizens feel very comfortable in contacting law enforcement, and in the years that I've been city attorney, I could probably count on one hand the complaints I've gotten from citizens or even defendants in criminal cases that claim that there was inappropriate police activity or police action. So, our officers really do a good job, and they're just the methods that they use and keeping everybody comfortable with the process. Sometimes if you get officers where the fact that they have some authority and they're carrying a gun, that can really go to their head and cause abuses of power if it's not managed and directed appropriately. And the leadership that we have from our department, we've not had any of those issues. And so I'm sure there's a reason for that. It just doesn't happen by circumstance. So I think our leaders have done a great job of training and then also selecting and hiring appropriate people. Some people are cut out to be law enforcement officers and some are not. But we've got a great staff.
Well, thanks to you, and thanks to our law enforcement in this community for a great evening. Move to the Fire Rescue EMS monthly report, and there was 8 fire department callouts. 6 of those were in the city, 2 were in the rural. Several of the callouts were the fire alarms and natural gas leak, and 1 carbon monoxide alarm. The 2 rural responses were a motor vehicle and a houseboat fire. The fire department did assist Canadian National trains with filling with water. The department was also very active in the July 4th. Being active in the parade, the races, children's races, and then the fireworks were all very helpful. And then they also assisted Camp Cooch with the fireworks. The ambulance in the month of July had 82 911 calls, 47 transfers for a total of 129 callouts. And under the fire department, under the housing department, which the chief is also very active in, there was 6 places where the grass was sighted and cut. Junk was cleaned up in 2 places. I'm not sure what the house number is, but the total was 8 activities in July for housing. Questions on the part of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I would report to the council that the carbon monoxide incident was actually at my house, and I was out of town, but my wife was home, and we were having our carpets in our house cleaned by ServiceMaster, and somehow the exhaust, they were running their truck in our driveway to use their, and somehow the exhaust from the truck went into our home and set off, raised the limit of carbon monoxide and set off our alarms. And so they had quick response and did a great job of getting my wife and her dog out of the house and airing things out and discovering, what the issue was. So on it very quickly.
Wonderful. Other questions on the part of the council with regard to the report? Thank you. Reports of the mayor, council committees, boards and commissions. I think the special meeting, the HR committee did the new finance director that will be on board on August the 21st?
His first day will be August 28th, Mr. Mayor.
28th, okay.
Yes.
All right. Further on committee reports? None. Anyone else in the audience that wishes to approach the council at this time? Not. The correspondence in the packet was library board meeting, and then the Arrowhead Regional Development Commission budget. We have a regular city council meeting is August the 21st. Do we have a budget committee meeting?
There is a budget meeting on the 21st as well. I will not be able to be there to chair it. I will be out of town for both the city council meeting and the committee meeting.
The budget meeting, is that 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock? All right. On August the 21st for budget, and then the regular city council meeting is at 4:30. Very good. Anything further to come before the council at this time? Hearing none, declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.